All right, hello everybody. Let us begin with the story of Moses, and I want to start with the conversation that Moses was having with God, and I want to start out with this part where he says to God that he is slow of tongue. um, and Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. um, oh my goodness. Like, does anybody see any problems with this? There's a huge problem. I am not eloquent. I am slow of tongue, slow of speech, right? Now, it's important to note, and we'll get into this later, that nobody knows who Moses is. The Jews see Aaron. Pharaoh sees Aaron. Everybody sees Aaron. Nobody sees Moses. But later on, the Jews do figure out that Moses is in charge and he speaks to them, right? And he has no trouble speaking to them, right? No trouble whatsoever does he have. Oh my God. I am not eloquent. Like, does anybody, like, oh my goodness. Right? Right? Does anybody, I am not eloquent? Right? I'm not, right. Moses is lying. I hate to break it to all of you guys, but Moses is lying. Now I did an Abraham video. Um, I did the analysis in part 3 and 4, so go check that out. But to sum up, Moses' view of good and evil is that good and evil come from the heart, right? God created all things and said that they are good. So good and evil do not come from the physical world, right? This is anathema to Moses. Everything is good, right? So what is the will other than the motion of your physicality? And of course, I would add into that thinking and meditation. Okay, motion. I mean, because like there's some biochemicals going down there if you're doing it properly, right? Um. The will is a created thing. I mean, it's a part of the physical world, and so good and evil are not in the will. Okay. Good and evil are not in the will, according to Moses, right? Um, Now, right before this, right before Moses lies, God tells Moses to throw the snake onto the ground. Now, this isn't a history book, right? I hate to break it to everybody. Not a history book, right? This stuff is not really happening. Moses is teaching us stuff. Like this conversation between Moses and God is not happening. Moses is a man of prayer and meditation, and he does communicate, but it's not FaceTime. Like he tells us that. He tells us he doesn't have FaceTime with God. Um, so this rod into a snake thing, right? What is going on there? Well, the rod is the will. And God is telling Moses that you can have a slippery will. Um, as long as your heart is good and innocent, you can have a slippery will, right? And this would be an example of Moses lying right here, and we'll get into that in a second. Um, but there's no real evil happening in Moses' lie, and I'll try to explain to that. Um, but I mean, this is like let's go back to when Moses tried to correct the one Jew who was abusing his fellow Jew. Moses came up to this man and he wants to heal him. He loves him. He loves all Jews. and he loves this Jew, and so he's speaking to this Jew who abuses this other Jew, and he's trying to heal him, right? And this is the unwise Moses, right? And this is Moses now starting to learn wisdom, and he's learning wisdom from God, and he's learning wisdom from this rod into a snake thing, right? And so the lesson is that discernment. Oh my goodness, discernment. I mean, Moses can go up to some people and do that, but other people you cannot correct. Because if you try to correct them out of love, they will destroy you. Okay? Because in their mind, they're out fighting with everybody all the time. They're control freaks. They're liars in their head. In their mind, you're attacking them. Right? Because when they criticize another person, they're trying to exile them and isolate them from the group. So they see you as trying to isolate them, right? So Moses' proper reaction should have been a slippery will, right? Fuck this guy up in another way. But that's not the whole meaning of this, right? So let's try to get into what's going on with Moses' lie here. Because, I mean, oh my goodness, people, I am not eloquent, right? I mean, does anybody have a problem with him saying this? Come on, people, it's like, so, yeah, I mean, this is nature, this is Moses' view of good and evil, right? Good and evil are not what most men say they are, right? Now, what else is going on here? Like, my late wife, right? We had a young son, 2 or 3 years old, and every now and then he would just like get sad. He would get really, really sad, and he would sit down, like, so we can all see him, and he gets really sad, and he just sits there sad. And my wife would come up to him, right? And she would, she would be smiling, but trying not to. There was this powerful energy that was being exuded from her. And she would walk up to him, right, slowly, and then she'd pick him up and put him on her lap, right? And then she'd try to look into his eye, and he didn't want to look into her eye. And she'd smile, and she'd be like, "Oh, you're not sad. You're not sad." And he's trying to be sad, right? Because really he's wanting to lovingly get her attention, and he wants this loving moment with her. And he's not sad. I mean, he's lying, right? That's what he's doing. Oh my goodness. What an evil liar, right? But I mean, this is a beautiful moment, right? Between a mother and a child. And eventually she's able to break his break his face. Break his little acting face that he had, and they'll start laughing together. But I mean, think about a game, right? A game is a lie. Like if you hit a baseball over the fence on one side of the magical line, then it's a home run. If you hit a baseball over the fence on the other side of the magical line, it's a foul. Right? A game is a lie. Right? You don't get 2 points or you don't get a point if you kick a ball into a net. Like, that's made up. That's make believe. And so this is actually what's going on here. This is what's going on here, right? Because we know that. I mean, if you know how to read, which I guess most people don't know how to read, but if you know how to read, right, then he's lying, right? And again, I'm going to bring out this great line by Hermes Trismegistus, Book 1 of the Pymander, the Divine Pymander. all, what is it? All, there it is. All that is incorporeal is void of lying. Right? All that is incorporeal is void of lying. Right? And that's what's happening right here. This is incorporeal. And Moses is void of lying. Right? Boo, 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 boo. But, I mean, if we know that Moses is lying, then God knows that Moses is lying. Right? And I mean, and Moses knows that God knows that Moses is lying, right? And God knows that Moses knows that Moses is lying. So, I mean, so what's happening here? Oh my goodness. God is playing along with Moses. Like, he's not really mad at him. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. Like, no, he's not mad. He's playing along. This is a very loving, playful scene right here, right? And you don't see this, and why don't people see this? People don't see this because they don't know who this God of Moses is. I mean, who is this? Like, God, that's such a vague word. I mean, what does it mean? Who is this guy? You know? And so it's like, if we want to bring in that language as above, we project our own as above onto our expectations of the God definition. And so what is our own as above, right? Our own as above are artificial men who are, you know, who we have to cheer for, you know, in the parade, you know? Very serious people. Like, there's this, oh my goodness, there's this seriousness to the state, whether we're talking about kings or republics or democracies. Oh my goodness, it's serious, and it's like very important. Like, oh my goodness. And so there's this seriousness to the as above in our world, and you wouldn't think that God is being playful here, right? This isn't real anger, because this isn't. I mean, this is they're playing with each other. And this conversation isn't really happening. Moses is trying to tell us the nature of God. Okay? Because Moses, I believe, is a man of merit. And there is no merit if you get all the answers straight from God's mouth. He does communicate, but the communication is not FaceTime. It is within it's within Moses' meditation, I think Moses would say. But Moses right here, he's trying to teach us about the nature of, oh my goodness, of God. And this is a very playful scene, right, between Moses and God right here. But now, let's see. Now, what are we doing? Man. Yeah, pretentious attitude of importance. Okay, now we have to ask the question of why does Moses, I mean, because this is a part of the story, right? So Moses is lying to God as a part of the story. And why? Why is Moses lying to God right here? Well, it's like, let's look at Egypt, right? And in Egyptian paintings or Egyptian statues, what do we see? We see the Pharaoh. Here's the Pharaoh right here. And oh my goodness, what else do we see, right? We see like this bling bling like headdress of some kind, right? And we see some bling bling on his chest. He's got some bling bling here. Bling bling, right? Oh my god, like he's pimping. That's what we see. And then but oh my goodness, but that's not also what we see. We see another guy here. Now this other guy, he's very plain. um, compared to the Pharaoh, if I can remember correctly. So it's like simple and plain. But he has a hawk's face, right? I think it's a hawk, maybe an eagle, like whatever. Like they can see a mouse from like miles away, right? This is what is happening in the text. I mean, the man who can see is the man in charge, right? This is an artistic imagery of glory, right? Because here's the glory of the Pharaoh, right? And all of the masses are like, oh my God, it's the Pharaoh, yeah. Right, but there's the wise, which are just like the small men, or like the few men that pop in every now and then, who are able to see, right? So that, I mean, you might be having a time where there's nobody in this category, and then one guy pops in and he's like, "Oh my goodness, that's the guy in charge. That's so cool." Um, this is what Moses is setting up right here, right? Aaron is this guy. Moses is this guy. Moses wants to be the cool guys, right? Moses wants to be the man in the shadow, right? Moses is, this is what he is going for. Boom, 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 dum, 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 dum. Okay, because I mean, eventually the Jews do see who Moses is, and he has to start speaking to them, like I said. But at first, oh my goodness, there's no Moses. So what's happening? Like, this sets up a dynamic, right? This sets up a very cool dynamic within the text, right? And what is this dynamic? Well, this sets up two separate audiences, right? Now, the first audience is the people within the text, right? Those are the NPCs, right? So this is the audience within the text. The second audience is the reader, right? That is you. You are the second audience, right? Now, what this does, what Moses is setting up right here is, here's Moses, right? Would you listen to this, right? What this is setting up here is that, what does the NPC see of Moses, right? Oh my God, they see nothing. Right, so this is really what I mean by Moses as the man in the shadow, because they don't see him, okay? The Bible NPCs do not see him. But what do we see? What do we see? We see Gandalf the freaking White, right? After he killed the Balrog. Like, this is a magician, a wizard, right? And I hear some idiots out there who are like, it's miracles, it's not magic. Shut up, okay? Please don't get involved yourself in this conversation. I mean, Moses is a freaking wizard, okay? Like, isn't it, like, this is how the text is being set up. He's setting up two separate audiences. And that's why, like, the Charlton Heston version is completely textually inaccurate, right? Because it's Aaron, right? He's the he's the man with all the eyes upon him. So, I mean, again, this is a very interesting dynamic. And that's basically the nature of this conversation, right? God is, and Oh, here's another funny thing about the conversation, is that Moses gets his way with God, right? Think about that, right? This is a story of a man, um, getting his way with God. God's like, fine, Moses, do it your way, right? But there's also something deeper here, right? Because what's God asking Moses to do? Well, God's asking him to do something he already wants to do, right? And Moses wants to do it his way, right? And God's not angry with him. God wants Moses to do it his way. Like, God doesn't even have to give Moses permission to go, because Moses already wants to go. He loves his people and wants to free his people. It's not that there was any one moment where Moses is like, "Hey, God wants me to go." It's just Moses got wiser over time. Like, he's 100 years old, but I think by the time he goes, I don't know how old he is. He's old by the time he goes out to free the Jews. Um, but in that time, from the time he ran to the time that he goes back, he's learned wisdom, and now he knows how to save the Jews, right? It's not that there was this any one moment, um, because I mean, Moses is definitely a man of merit. Boom, 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 doo, doo. Okay, let's. Now I want to go over the story, but before I go over the story, uh, I just wanted to talk about some random things. Um, the first is this leprous hand thing. Now, I bring in the leprous hand because this is right after the snake into the rod into the snake, and right before the lie, right? And again, this is a bit playful, beautiful moment between God and Moses. But right before that, you have the leprous hand, right? Right, and maybe you guys can help me with this, because I see the imagery. I see the imagery generally, but not specifically. Okay, so Enoch, in the book of Enoch, he talks about an evil angel who knows I forgot the exact words, but the secrets of sweetness and bitterness. I know he uses sweetness and bitterness. So this is an evil angel that uses sweetness and bitterness. And what Enoch is referring to is false praise and false condemnations, right? This is an evil angel that uses false praise and false condemnation. Um, uh, and I think something similar is going on here. It might not be exactly false praise and false bitterness, because I mean, basically, like, if you want to mix up the imagery, right, you could say that if you touch someone with a pure hand, that's sweetness, right? And if you touch someone with a leprous hand, then that is bitterness, right? But I don't think we should mix the imagery like that, because I mean, it's very similar. It's very similar, but it's not necessarily the same. Let's go back to oh my goodness, that the Jew who was abusing his fellow Jew, right? Moses wants to touch that man with a pure hand, right? He wants to heal him. Like, what God is telling Moses is, no, destroy him. Moses doesn't want to destroy him. He wants to build him up. And God is telling Moses, no, you go touch that man with the leprous hand and destroy his ass. Like, because again, when Moses sees the snake turn into the rod, he is shocked because he is a good man. He is shocked as hell because of the implications of the teaching that good and evil are in the heart and not in the will. And playful conversations and games is a part of that, if you're logical. But it also has other moral implications as well. Um, and so this is very similar. He's shocked. Like, he doesn't want to destroy that man. Like, he loves all Jews and he wants to lift all Jews up. And to touch another man with a leprous hand is just not in Moses' nature. But this is a Moses who is becoming wiser, right? Because I mean, I think he just comes to the conclusion that, you know, there's some people who just are never going to want to learn, right? Um, so, you know, I mean, definitely there's some similarities between the sweetness, bitterness, and leprous hand thing. Um, some intellectual similarities, you know. This could be genus and species type stuff. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think? But before we leave off on the conversation, I just want to point out that Moses was a pot smoker. Okay. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, he knows that the wise ones will totally understand the burning bush, right? And um, if you're not smoking pot, then you're not reading the Bible correctly, right? Let's see. Okay, I want to get into work. I don't know how long work is going to take. I can only make these videos for 30 minutes before my memory runs out. But I will start on work, and then after that we can get into the story, which is really fun. Um, okay, so let's begin. Taskmaster, right? Moses is the Lord of naming, right? And I think if I remember, that's like in Genesis, maybe, possibly. And we're all supposed to be the Lord of naming or something like that. I don't know. But this word taskmaster, you know, I mean, it has a contemptuous feel to it, right? But I mean, oh my goodness, this isn't an ego thing. It's not a personal thing. Um, you have to step back, and he's saying no, no. The disgust is in the ideas, not in the person of the taskmaster. Um, I mean, what are the Jews doing? They're doing a bunch of tasks, right, for others. They are building stuff for other men. And so, what would Moses say? Right? Moses praises Uliab, right? He's like, I got my boy Uliab, right? And Uliab is a metal craftsman. um, God is a maker and a creator, right? The theologian, the dirty minded theologian, is going to come in and see the word creator and then just start to abstract. which is why, another reason why people can't see that God, that playful God, right? Because they're too busy abstracting, right? But God is the image of us. So God is a maker. He's a creator. He's a craftsman. He's a producer, right? And he's praising Uliab, who is also a maker, a creator, a craftsman, a producer. You see this? The Jews, on the other hand, are doing tasks of a taskmaster, right? Now, Uliab, when he works, he has to do tasks as well, right? But Uliab is his own taskmaster, right? He is his own taskmaster. And Moses does not want us to be, does not want some men to be the taskmasters of other men. He wants men to be free, right? Moses is a freedom guy. Because this word taskmaster, again, it's very contemptuous. And it's contemptuous towards these ideas, right? And these ideas are very tyrannical, right? Boo, boo, boo. And we'll finish the work stuff in another video.